Hey everyone, welcome back to Black Hill Intelligence. Today, we're diving into a super important topic that affects us all: inflation. Whether you've noticed the rising prices at the grocery store or at the gas pump, inflation is something that touches every aspect of our lives. But what exactly is inflation? And why does it happen? Let's break it down. What is inflation? Inflation is the gradual increase in the prices of goods and services over time, reducing the purchasing power of money. In simple terms, as inflation rises, each dollar buys fewer items than it did before. For example, something that costs $1 today may cost $1.05 next year if inflation is at 5%. Now, you might be wondering, why do prices go up? Inflation is driven by two main factors: demand pull and cost push forces. Demand pull inflation occurs when the demand for goods and services outstrips their supply. This often happens in a growing economy where people have more disposable income to spend, leading businesses to raise prices as consumers are willing to pay more. For example, if everyone wants the latest smartphone but there are limited units available, prices tend to rise. Cost push inflation happens when the cost of production increases, such as rising wages, higher prices for raw materials, or increased energy costs. Businesses pass these higher costs on to consumers in the form of higher prices. For instance, a rise in all prices can increase transportation and production costs, which then drives up prices across multiple industries. Additionally, inflation can be influenced by monetary factors, like when excessive money is printed, reducing the value of the currency, or external shocks, such as supply chain disruptions or geopolitical events. How does inflation affect you? Well, when prices rise faster than your income, your purchasing power decreases. That means you can buy less with the same amount of money. Over time, this can impact your savings, investments, and everyday expenses. However, a little bit of inflation can be a good thing. It encourages spending and investment because people know that money today is worth more than it will be tomorrow. But if inflation gets too high, it can lead to economic problems, like making it harder for people to afford basic goods. So, how do we measure inflation? What is a healthy rate of inflation? A healthy rate of inflation is generally considered to be around 2% per year, a target used by many central banks, including the U.S. Federal Reserve. This moderate level of inflation is beneficial because it encourages economic growth without significantly eroding purchasing power. A small, steady rise in prices promotes consumer spending and investment, as people are more likely to buy goods or invest their money when they know prices will gradually increase over time. It also helps businesses grow by allowing them to raise prices slowly while still maintaining demand. At the same time, low but positive inflation avoids the risks of deflation, where prices fall and economic activity slows down. Deflation can lead to reduced spending, lower wages, and higher unemployment. By keeping inflation around 2%, central banks aim to balance economic growth with price stability, ensuring that inflation doesn't spiral out of control and destabilize the economy. Consumer Price Index, or CPI. The Consumer Price Index, or CPI, measures the average change in prices over time for a basket of goods and services commonly purchased by households. It is one of the primary tools used to track inflation. The CPI includes categories like food, housing, clothing, transportation, and healthcare, reflecting typical consumer spending patterns. To calculate the CPI, government agencies, like the U.S. Bureau of Labor Statistics, collect price data on thousands of items each month. These prices are then compared to prices from a base period, and the percentage change indicates how much prices have increased or decreased. For example, if the CPI is 3% higher than last year, it means that, on average, prices have risen by 3%. Policymakers, businesses, And workers use the CPI to make decisions about interest rates, wage adjustments, and other economic factors. The CPI helps assess the overall cost of living and the impact of inflation on households. What is hyperinflation? Hyperinflation is an extreme and rapid increase in prices, typically exceeding 50% per month. In such situations, the value of a country's currency plummets, making everyday goods and services unaffordable. Unlike normal inflation, where prices rise gradually, hyperinflation causes prices to skyrocket within days or weeks. Hyperinflation is usually triggered by excessive money printing to cover government debts or deficits, which leads to a loss of confidence in the currency. As people rush to spend their money before it loses value, demand surges, worsening the problem. Additionally, political instability or war can disrupt production and supply chains, contributing to hyperinflation. Notable examples include Zimbabwe in the 2000s and Germany's Weimar Republic in the 1920s, where prices spiraled out of control. Hyperinflation devastates economies, wiping out savings, disrupting economic activity, and leading to social unrest, as people can no longer afford basic necessities. What is deflation? Deflation is the opposite of inflation. It refers to a general decline in the prices of goods and services over time. While falling prices might seem beneficial, deflation can signal deeper economic problems and lead to negative consequences. When prices decrease, consumers tend to delay spending, expecting even lower prices in the future. This reduced demand slows economic activity as businesses cut back on production, leading to layoffs and reduced wages. Deflation often occurs during economic downturns or recessions, when there's reduced consumer demand or an oversupply of goods. It can also be triggered by a tightening of the money supply or a decrease in consumer and business confidence. Prolonged deflation can create a vicious cycle of falling prices, lower wages, and high unemployment, making economic recovery difficult. Japan's economy in the 1990s is a key example of long-term deflation, which hindered growth and prolonged its economic stagnation. And that's a wrap on our dive into inflation. Hopefully, you've got a better understanding of what it is, why it happens, and how it affects all of us. Remember, whether prices are rising a little or a lot, staying informed helps you make better financial decisions. If you found this video helpful, don't forget to give it a thumbs up and share it with your friends. And for more simple breakdowns of complex topics, hit that subscribe button and ring the bell so you never miss out on future videos. Thanks for watching, and we'll see you next time right here on Black Hill Intelligence. Stay curious, stay informed.